I'm Carol Farley, and I am on the board of Arlington Common.
I'm Bebe, and I'm also on the board of the Arlington Common. Carol and I started it a long time ago, 2004, when our kids were little, and we wanted to have a way for kids to have opportunities after school. We started, I think there were about 30 classes a year, and it ran the gamut from Japanese language and cooking to fencing, ballroom dancing, building bridges with Legos, and a lot of community members would come and volunteer and run the classes. The teachers would either volunteer or be paid. So we worked out this after school program that was really affordable for all the families in Arlington, and that also engaged a wide variety of community members. And so we started that 19 years ago now.
I mean, I think that our goal was to really give enrichment to students. We're a small community, a small town, and so we really wanted to bring additional programming to the schools. You know, at that time, the budgets were really tight, the art programs were getting cut, and so the mission was really to enhance schools and kids' education. We did that for many years, and then we got a 21st Century After School Program grant, so the school was able to take over all the programming and add an educational component to it. And then we started a program called Green Mountain Squash, which was for middle school students, and it was really based on city squash, which is in Boston and New York City, right? And so it was more of we identified middle school students, and they learned how to play squash, and they received after school help and mentoring and really
free summer camp,
and they delved into their community and learned about being, citizens, good community and citizens. And then we followed them from middle school through high school and sort of helped launch them into their grown-up lives. And so that happened. And then we did some summer camps at the school, middle school summer camps, because we're both teachers. So, and so we did some middle school, we did a gardening and cooking camp, and a few others. And then we took a little hiatus, and then this happened.
Yes. So what happened after the pilot program for the middle school program ended? We surveyed the kids, they all loved it, but it was hard because there's no place for them to play squash in Arlington, which makes the squash program kind of challenging. And so this property had been vacant for 10 years. Someone suggested we what could happen here, and Carol and I were like, oh, we could run our after school program there. And so that kind of launched it, and we applied for a grant to do a planning grant to do like a market and feasibility study, an environmental review study, all the things that happen when you're trying to change the use of a property. And that's kind of how it all came about. And we purchased the property from the diocese.
2 years ago?
2 years ago, I think. Wow. Yeah, we're about to have probably our anniversary.
Yeah, October. Although it started earlier than that. Yeah. So really probably the first place that kind of got up and running was the fitness center, which is in the back. And we started out with some very sort of random classes. They were great, but they were, 10 weeks, certain amount of money. And then it morphed into a regular programming where you could actually join and become, for a very small fee, become a member. And now we offer, how many classes?
13 fitness classes a week. 3 of those are free for seniors. And then just starting now, 9 ballet classes a week from ages 3 to seniors.
So that space in the back is really the fitness center. We're also...
Oh yeah, we're about to get fitness equipment. It'll be a full gym. We applied for an enterprise grant from the USDA, which is part of the federal government, to do like a startup with the fitness equipment. And so we got a grant money to start that. So that equipment is arriving later this month or early next month. So we'll have like weight bench, ellipticals, treadmills, bikes, rowing machines, everything.
So that is what's happening back there. And that was really the first spot to kind of get up and running. And then this building, which is called the Watkins House because it was originally owned by the Watkins family. This building initially, it started out as a gallery. One of our board members, Don Tracty, his father was a local artist with Norman Rockwell during that time period. And so Don had this huge, he had an exhibit that he had put together for the Vermont Museum in Montpelier. And so he brought it in. And so we kind of used that as people were coming, they were interested. We had this really cool exhibit. And so the house became more of like, come see what's happening. Let's have a tour. And people were coming to see that exhibit. And then we realized we needed to come up with money to pay for the buildings, right? Well, so, and part of our feasibility study was that we needed to start renting out space. So we have a social worker therapist who's renting space up there. And this space has really become a gallery and an art collective upstairs. We have 2 artists who are renting space full time. And then we have like a shared artist studio up there. And then we have a Reiki practitioner. Yeah. So this has become kind of the arts building and programming. So we also have mahjong, we have
fly tying club.
And then we have a lot of like meetings here. People have been renting out the space for memorial services, Christmas parties.
Yeah, and we've had 5 local artist shows here that have been ongoing. So we have a docent program with volunteers, and yeah, I mean we have had so many different things in here.
And this is a nice space for meetings, and there have been a lot of community meetings here. There was a year ago like a community dialogue, a group of people who met to just have a dialogue about what was happening. So some smaller just talks in here. So this space has kind of become the meeting space and the arts spot. And then the Performing Arts Center across the way is sort of still a work in progress. We've had a film festival in there. We've had our fly fishing festival. That's a whole other thing. But we've had a lot of speakers in there. We hosted the Housing Summit.
Yep, Vermont Housing Summit. And then this summer, a rock academy, a kids professional rock group came and performed. So we built a stage, so that now has starting to come online, but it's still in progress.
Well, because it's a blank slate. We don't have sound really. We have a little bit of sound. We don't have any of the infrastructure that we need to have a real usable space. Like when we've had people come in to speak, they've had to bring their own equipment.
Yeah.
So that's a space we're kind of waiting on. It's going to be a large investment.
Yeah.
And so
we're envisioning like open mic nights, film festivals, movie nights, speakers, bands, all types of things like that. So, but it's a very, 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 very expensive building to run because we have to heat it, and the heating bill is astronomical. So, pickleball courts.
Oh yeah.
So the pickleball courts are open this summer. We were able to build those with community support and a grant through Better Places. And so we have 2 pickleball courts. They're gorgeous and they're back. We've got free open play for people to come play. We've hosted 9 different 101 beginner lessons to help people learn how to play with Jerry Wall, who's amazing down in Bennington. He's the Vermont Pickleball Ambassador. So he's been amazing. So we had a summer camp this summer for kids. We have a league going on right now. So it's very exciting.
And the pickleball has brought a whole nother group of people. I mean, it's been interesting, but it's a whole nother sort of layer, which has been really nice because that group of people is also interested in a lot of the other things we're doing. And so it sort of helped.
Yeah. And we're about to have it's starting next Monday, a free after-school pickleball club. Some very nice volunteers from our community who are going to be the mentors, and then middle school kids are going to be able to come play pickleball.
And they're very, very excited.
I mean, Carol and I were just talking about it. I think money is the hardest one. We have 4 buildings that had been on hiatus, some of them for longer, but about 10 years. They need a tremendous amount of upkeep. The heating bills are astronomical. And I think that's been the biggest challenge, is how do we create programming for our community that's affordable and run our buildings at the same time? And as a new startup organization, even though we've been around for a while, we never really had to raise a ton of money before.
No.
So that has been hard to start programming and be good stewards of the buildings.
And I mean, I think Bebe's our grant writer, and she's done an incredible, I mean, she's written so much of what we've been able to do has been grants. I mean, we've had some really generous community support, but the rest of it has been an unbelievable amount of grant money. And so that's been helpful. But I mean, I think Bebe's almost written every grant possible that we can receive. So,
and the grants are great. We've gotten so much support from the state and from organizations, but they all require so much matching money. So even though we've been really successful, it's only really a drop in the bucket of what the buildings are going to take to save them and make sure they're standing. So I think sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night in a complete panic because we have a lot of infrastructure and we have grants which we can't touch because we have to raise the total amount in order to touch them, which is the chicken and the egg situation that makes it very hard. But everyone at the state has been so nice to us and holds my hand because I'm not really sure what I'm doing all the time. And so it's been great, but that's the challenge, is how do we raise this money and access the grant money we've been given?
I mean, I think the other challenge is we have 7 board members now. We had 5 prior, like I'd say in the last, 8 months, we've added 2 board members, but we're all volunteers. We all have other jobs and commitments. And so a lot of it's also human power. You know, we have a lot of people in the community have sort of rallied around and are helpful and involved, but we've been doing a lot of the programming and kind of initiating it, and we're finally getting to a place where other people are starting to take that on. So people infrastructure, you know, building out things that can be run by other people. Yeah. It's not challenging, but it's taken a while to get ourselves to a point where other people are like, oh, I'd like to be involved.
And there's nonprofits in town who have been so great working with us, the Masons, the Lions, the Boy Scouts, and that's just a few, but the Garden Club, amazing. Like, they're all helping us. And I think that's also one of our challenges is that Arlington has we're a tiny area and we have over 20 nonprofits in this area. So everybody is doing a lot. We have a great community, but everybody's taxed for time, for dollars, and attendees to events. And so all the nonprofits now, we've formed the Arlington Area Alliance, which is a new group of nonprofits all coming together to figure out how we can all work together. And I think that's one of our challenges, is where do we fit in? How do we not do things that are already being done? Right. Like, there are a lot of things and you don't even realize that they're being done. So it's like, how do we find what's our place in the community? And in the beginning, we just sort of we had a lot of ideas, and so it was like we were a startup. We were like, let's do it. You know, we would sit in a room and the next day we were doing it. And so now we're starting to settle in and see, where do we belong? What should we be doing? What are things that we don't need to be doing, are in our real mission? I mean, we know that arts, education, and fitness are part of our mission, but we don't need to do things that other people in the community are doing. And becoming aware of that. And really, we've had to focus. Yeah, and it's hard because there's so many good things happening in Arlington, but in these nonprofit meetings, we're all realizing we don't always know what each other are doing. And so that has been how to get a community calendar going and how to collaborate and build off each other versus competing for the same like events or time period. So it's an overall challenge, I think, for all the great work that's done in Arlington by a lot of people. To think we've only been around for 2 years and all the things that have happened in even just a year from what we did last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe what's happened and how many people have helped us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I frequently have been thinking, how it's finally taken on a life of its own. I mean, for the first year, we were all like trying to kind of, who are we? Getting people to know who we were. And now people are just starting to do things. We were just saying somebody's taking on doing a lot of programming and she's comfortable in the building, and so she'll do it, you know? Yeah. And so the board, we don't have to breathe the life into it anymore because it's there. Yeah. People in the community now are like, I want to actually be a part of it and make it better and bigger. And
right.
So.
Yeah, and we got a very generous donation to be able to pay an executive director part-time. It's a year donation, so that's been exciting. But then
we do lie in bed at night thinking, if we can't fund her next year, what will we do? Because that's been actually, having her has been a huge step forward for us, because again, there was a small group of volunteer people that none of us could have kept on going. But because we were able to have her and hire her, it's turned things around. It's made things so that we've built our capacity. I think that's it's capacity building. And so we're now at a place where other people are taking on that.
We've had 2 fly fishing festivals that are 3-day long festivals, bringing fly fishermen and non-fly fisher angler people from all over the place. They've come from like
country,
Canada, yeah. and then we have speakers, we have fly tying workshops, we have music, we have a beer tent, we have all sorts of just art, tons of stuff.
Yeah, art, and that is really fun. I mean, that's been really, that's our biggest, really our only fundraiser and our biggest fundraiser. And I mean, we have one of our board members is sort of completely plugged into that whole, which has been great because he's done such an amazing job pulling it together. I mean, it's just, we're lucky that we have somebody who can do that. And that is really our huge fundraiser. And it's a lot of fun, and it's been a great way, like the whole community's been involved in terms of like the fire department has the volunteers and the Boy Scouts volunteers and the school lets us use their van. And I mean, there are a lot of different ways in which the community also has been a part of it. So yeah. It's been really nice.
And then that money that we raised from the Fly Fishing Festival, we hope will cover electricity and heat for the year. That's the goal. Yeah. We haven't met it yet. But that's the goal.
We're gonna do it this year.
Yeah.
But I mean, so that's been also like, that's such a big event. It's a huge event. So.
Yeah. It's really celebrating the bat and kill and the history in this valley of the water, and whether it's fly fishing or spin fishing or paddling on the river, it's really an event that can be for all sorts of people that enjoy the river and the rich history of the bat and kill in this valley.
I think also one of the other events, well, there are 2 events. One, this Christmas we had Don Trachty, who did the original event, Norman Rockwell exhibit. His father was an artist with Norman Rockwell, so his father collected Christmas cards and drew them. He was
an illustrator.
Illustrator, thank you. And so he drew them, and he had all these cards from other artists who lived in Arlington at the time. And it was a really cool exhibit. It was multimedia.
Yeah.
And Don spent a lot of time on it. And so we had a series of Christmas events around it. And that was just very fun. It was open, it was free, the community came.
Yeah.
So that was really.
Yeah, seeing the garden club ladies and the Boy Scouts decorating this whole building for Christmas. it's just like a special,
Yeah.
I have like a mental picture of this one young boy and this older lady who are doing this whole tree together, and it was like the sweetest picture ever. And they had their Boy Scout uniforms on.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
So that was, and then I think that the parking lot party, we've had two. 2 summers ago we had one, and it was just really fun. It was a community. We had a band who donated their time for, it was free, and a lot of community members, and it was just a lot of fun. And then this year we had one again. It was a little bit different. It was a fundraiser for flood relief, and we had a band who was from out of town who was actually playing at the OWN Festival at the West Mountain Inn, and they came, and that was a different kind of thing, but it was fun, and it was outside, and it was a fundraiser, and that was a lot of fun too. The last event we had, which was really fun, was the Norman Rockwell Models reunion that just happened 2 weekends ago. So we had about 100 people who came, and I would say 50 of them, 25 of them were Norman Rockwell models. There are not that many left, because the people who are children and modeled from are in their 70s. So they're fewer and fewer. And so that was really interesting. They all came, they all reminisced. A lot of people spoke, and that was in the Performing Arts Center. And then the Lions did lunch for us, which was also.
And the Boy Scouts did coffee,
Yeah.
and GNAT came and filmed the whole thing.
And we couldn't have done it without, I mean, every aspect of the community has been incredibly supportive.
Yeah.
I feel like there's no way we could be.
Yeah, the select board has been amazing. They've been so helpful, and like people just show up and help. Like there's this really nice man, Jim, who he was playing pickleball, and he's like, your garage, the trim needs to be painted. He goes, I'll just come over and paint it. And he now has painted almost the whole thing. Today he was nailing down the roofing, and it's just, he just comes and makes it beautiful, and it's just so nice. But stuff like that happens all the time, and we just feel so like blessed that people have been so kind.
Well, we were here yesterday looking for things, and everything got moved, like neatly organized down in the basement. People were hanging up signs, like neatly hung up signs. And I mean, who knows who it was? I mean, even the fact that this building is so clean and nice, honestly, is a miracle, because there's so many people in and out now, and it's clean and orderly. And
yeah, the garden club does our, helps us with our flowers. Just everybody helps out.
The Boy Scouts come every time we call them, they come. So like if we're setting up for an event, we need the leaves raked, we need somebody to do coffee, like they will come. It's really nice.
I mean, someone just showed up today to help nail down the ballet floor that just had never been here before, and he just came to help out. And Adirondack chairs have shown up that we don't even know who gave them. And we can't even, okay, you do. We couldn't even thank them because we had no idea where they came from. So things like that just happen, and it's just been amazing.
I mean, I'd like to just see it continue to become a more and more vibrant part of the community. And I do think it's like seeing it take on a life of its own, so that it just, people come, they have a vision for something they want to do, and they can do it. You want to teach a class about, film, you can come on in and teach the class, and we have space for you, and you can donate your time, or you can do it as a,
paid class.
I mean, so it's kind of is a community space, and people have been making it their own. So people who wanted, like, we have an event that's coming up, and a woman was like, I have all these ideas and I'd like to do them. And we were like, great. Yeah. So I think it's continuation of that, of people having visions and bringing them to life here as a community space.
Yeah. And I personally would love to see the buildings restored to their glory in a financially conservative, savvy way, but just so that the buildings are secure. We aren't ADA accessible yet. We're not insulated. There's lots of things that that make the buildings expensive to run, but also, you know, they're gorgeous in their own way, but they all are going to need a lot of help. This is a 1900s building, and it needs a little TLC that comes with a price tag, unfortunately.
Well, and things come to, I feel like if it was sort of like the field of dreams thing, like if you build it, they will come. But I do think even like financially, if people continue to come and take ownership, and then that will come too. But and it's important that the buildings thrive, because if they don't, then, you know, it does depend on maintaining the buildings.